All right, so this is going to be a video with 5 more examples of adding and subtracting rational expressions. So the first one is b squared over b squared minus 2bc plus c squared minus b over b minus c. It is important to understand too with this one is that these set of 5 for this video are going to be way more advanced than the previous ones that we've done. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is factor the rational expression on the left, and that ends up factoring, that denominator ends up factoring to b minus c times b minus c. And then we're subtracting this from b over b minus c, and you can kind of see what I need to multiply that second rational expression by to make it so we have common denominators. It should be a b minus c. Okay. Again, I'm going to make this minus a plus and then make this negative here. It just makes the math a little bit easier to work with. And now that you can see that we have common denominators, we can just add across. So it's b squared minus b squared, since you're distributing here, and then you're going to have a plus bc there. And this is all going to be divided by b minus c quantity squared. Okay, I'm going to simplify this. The b squareds cancel, and you're going to be left with bc over b minus c quantity squared. And this is the final answer. If you wanted, you could expand that denominator, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, the next one is crazy. That's okay. We'll do it together. Okay, so we have a fraction on top of another fraction here, which is going to get really crazy, but that's okay. The same rules actually apply, only I'm going to parse this out where I'm going to simplify this one first, and then I'm going to simplify the denominator afterwards, and then I'm going to divide the two. So I'm going to do the subtraction part for each of these first. So this first one here, you end up with b squared plus b minus 1 all over 2b minus 1 minus 1 over 1. Now to get common denominators, I'm just going to multiply this by 2b minus 1 over 2b minus 1. And a good rule of thumb, again, is to make sure that negative, that minus becomes a negative. It's just easier to work with. And then you're going to end up with b squared plus b minus 1 minus 2b plus 1. And it's all divided by that common denominator of 2b minus 1. All right, b minus b is going to be negative b. And then negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So you're going to end up with b squared minus b on top divided by 2b minus 1. Okay, so that's the top part. Now we're going to do the bottom part over here. So you're going to end up with 4 over 1 minus 8 over b plus 1. And to deal with this, I'm going to just multiply this 4 over 1 by b plus 1 over b plus 1. And now we have common denominators. You're going to end up with 4b plus 4 minus 8 all over b plus 1. And if we simplify this out, this will become a negative 4. You're going to be left with 4b minus 4 over b plus 1. Now we are dividing this part right here that I just circled with this part right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just multiply by the reciprocal of those for that second one. So it's going to be b squared minus b over 2b minus 1 times the reciprocal of this expression right here. So you end up with something like that. Now we can factor the top part here to be b times b minus 1 all over 2b minus 1 times b plus 1 over 4 times b minus 1. You'll see that the b minus 1s cancel here. Nothing else will cancel though. So your final answer should be b times b plus 1. If you want, you can distribute that. Divided by 8b minus 4. And that's your final answer. Okay, on to the next one. All right, so this next one's going to be 1 over 2m minus 4n minus 1 over 2m plus 4n minus m over m squared minus 4n squared. Okay, a lot to break down here. All right, first thing I'm going to do is factor all those denominators to see what I'm working with here. So we can factor out a 2 here, and you're going to be left with m minus 2n minus, okay, again, I would do that add negative here. So I'm going to do that add negative here. Factor out a 2, and you're going to be left with m plus 2n minus m over m plus 2n times m minus 2n. Okay. Now to get common denominators, I'm going to multiply this one by m plus 2n over m plus 2n. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here, only it's going to be m minus 2n. Okay, and that last one, I'm just going to multiply it by 2 over 2. So now if you notice, all of them have an m plus 2n, a 2, and an m minus 2n for the denominators. So since we have common denominators, we can combine all of our numerators. So you're going to be left with m plus 2n minus m plus 2n minus m, really this is a 2m, all divided by 2 times m plus 2n times 2 minus 2n. Something like that. All right, m's cancel here, 2n's cancel here, and you're left with 2m on top, or negative 2m, I should say. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is simplify. So m minus m is going to cancel. Okay, you have 2n and 2n. Those are going to combine together to be 4n minus 2m divided by all of those factors. Okay, now if I factor out the top, factor out 2 out, you get 2n minus m. And if you notice, that is that's the reverse of this thing right here. So you can divide this out here and you get negative 1. So your final answer, oh wait, the 2's also are going to cancel out here. So your final answer should be negative 1 over m plus 2n. And that is the final answer. Okay, the next one is 5x over 2 plus 1 over 5x over 4 minus 1 over 5x. Okay. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different on this one, just because I feel like it'll help a lot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom of this humongous fraction by whatever. I'm going to multiply it by whatever the denominators are for each fraction in the numerator and denominator. So, for example, there's a 2 here. I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 2. Okay. Then I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 4, since there's a 4 here. Then I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 5x. And a cool thing happens when you do this. So this whole thing right here is going to distribute to each of these things here. So then you're going to end up with 5x times 2 times 4 times 5x. It's going to be divided by 2, plus, we're going to multiply this by 1 here because we have to distribute to this 1. And you're going to have 40x, because you did 2 times 4 is 8 times 5 is 40. Okay. Now what's cool about this is this fraction goes away because the 2 over 2 cancels. So now if you notice everything in blue right there, this top is going to have no denominators. Okay, the same thing on the bottom, you're going to have 5x times 2 times 4 times 5x. It's all divided by 4 still. And then you're going to subtract 1. And it's going to be 1 over 5x times that 40x. Okay. Now watch all the fractions disappear. So there's the fractions that disappear here. X over x cancels. 40 over 5 is 8. So you have the minus 8 there. So now the numerator is going to be 100x squared plus 40x all over 50x squared minus 8. All right, so the next step here is to factor out everything that we can. So we're going to factor out a 20x here, and you're going to be left with 5x plus 2. And then this is all going to be divided by, for this one I can actually factor out a 2, and you get 25x squared minus 4. And I can factor out this because it's a difference of squares, so it's going to be 5x plus 2 times 5x minus 2. Okay, from here you can see the top 5x plus 2 and the bottom 5x plus 2 will divide out, and then you can do the 20 divided by 2 here. So you get 10x on top here, 10x divided by 5x minus 2 for the final answer. All right, the last one is going to be a doozy. But if we follow the same rules we were following last time, shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so the main thing with this is you'll notice that this one and this one have the same denominator. So what I'm going to do is multiply the top and the bottom by that denominator. So it basically gets rid of the fraction over a fraction, and we'll just have one humongous fraction. All right, so this thing right here, I'm going to distribute to the 1, and then I'm going to distribute to this part right here, and you're going to end up with x squared plus 1, because it's just times 1, plus 4x plus 3, okay, because these denominators would just essentially cancel here. Divided by, we're going to do the same thing here, distribute to the 1, so you're going to get x squared plus 1, and then we're going to distribute to this thing right here, and you're going to be left with negative x plus 7, so minus x plus 7 essentially. Okay, let's clean this up. The numerator is going to be x squared plus 4x plus 4. The denominator is going to be x squared minus x minus 6. Okay, the top and the bottom will factor. So the top is going to factor to x plus 2 quantity squared, and the denominator is going to factor to x minus 3 and x plus 2. Simplify this out, divide the top and the bottom by x plus 2, and you're going to be left with x plus 2 over x minus 3 for the final answer.